Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. So if you've been with me the last few videos, you'll know that we are midway through our ocean themed videos, whether that's epoxy resin or Jesmonite, whatever it is we are using, it's all ocean or water themed. And we've been making silicone molds and we've been making silicone inlays, and this video is no different. We are taking it up a notch. We are going next level silicone inlay. This is the biggest silicone inlay I've ever made, and it is huge. And yeah, we're gonna start from scratch. We're making the inlay and then we are using the inlay in this video, and I hope you love it and enjoy. So to make the biggest silicone inlay today on my channel, I need the biggest shells. Now I've had these shells for a solid couple of years. My dad got them at his local auction, and I do believe he got like 10 for £1 or 50p or something silly. And these are scallop shells, so you can actually buy these, purchase these from the seafood market or from a a seafood stall when you are going to cook your fresh scallops. Now my brain automatically went directly back to the way I've been making the inlays so far, and that is by using polymer clay, creating my mold, and then shoving my shells down into the polymer clay to create that embossed layer to pour the silicone in. And guys, I was that close to actually doing it. I was that close to rolling my clay out to press these shells in it, when my brain was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just pour the silicone directly into the shells. So guys, honestly, this video could have been so different. This could have just been me embarrassing myself by actually pressing these into polymer clay and baking all of that clay and wasting all of that clay. Anyway, I thought I'd let you know that because, sometimes my brain doesn't connect. I don't see logical, solutions. But here we are. I'm just creating 2 silicone inlays in this video. And to do this, I'm actually going to have to support my scallop shells in some way, and I decided that I'm going to be using the polymer clay to do that. So it's all good, I can still reuse my polymer clay. Now I've got one kind of like at an angle and one a lot flatter down, and you'll kind of get what I mean by that when we pour the silicone. And I'm actually going to be colouring my silicone with this beautiful coral colour. I just figured it was perfect, absolutely perfect for a seashell inlay. I put a bit too much in, but it's okay. It did not impact the silicone at all. It just gave it this absolutely beautiful shimmery coral colour. So the one thing to bear in mind when you're making giant inlays like this is your mould. What mould do you have that is going to be deep enough to actually accommodate a silicone inlay of this size? So here I am pouring the silicone. This silicone, by the way, is by Let's Resin. I am a Let's Resin ambassador, so of course you've got 10% off your silicone. Everything will be detailed down below in the description box. You can see the way I'm pouring this silicone now. You can see that this shell is quite flat down. Where the ridges are, it's lower. Whereas the shell on the right, it's higher where the ridges are, because I want them to be 2 completely different inlays. I wasn't sure at this point. I was waiting to see how the silicone actually reacted, how the silicone performed. Where did the silicone go? How much of this shell am I actually getting? How much detail am I getting with this silicone? So as you can see here, I'm filling this one up. This is huge. And I did question myself because I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to have anything that fits this. This is going to be deep and huge and round, and at the moment my brain is saying, oh Claire, are you sure about this? You haven't really got anything that fits this. So I ended up having to prop it up with some more polymer clay to make sure that none of that silicone actually flowed out and over. And this one here, you can see I'm coming down at an angle, so you can see this one here is a lot shallower. It's not as wide. We're not going to get such a detailed fan design, but it will be a lot more versatile because it will, you'll have molds that probably fit this one. But the one on the right is gigantic, deep. It's like an inch deep at the deepest part. And then I was just questioning, are they going to come out? Is it going to be okay? And it came out of the shell like a dream. And this is now making me wonder why I didn't go ahead and make silicone inlays from all of those flat seashell, guys. Why didn't I go and make silicone inlays from the flat seashells? I pressed them in to the polymer clay instead. You see what I'm saying? My brain didn't connect the dots. But as for the, you know, the big fat round seashells, you kind of have to press them into polymer. But yeah, I'm loving these. I'm absolutely loving them. This one has got a really interesting edge, and I was toying with the idea of cutting those off because I don't know. But look at the size difference. The one at the top is absolutely massive. It is the biggest silicone inlay I've ever held, let alone made myself. The one on the right has got a very strange edge to it, so there is an option to trim those down, cut those down if you wanted to. So I searched high and low. I searched every single one of my silicone molds to see if it would be deep enough around here to handle and accommodate this huge chunky silicone inlay. This is the only mold I had that would do it, and of course it's a cake tin. Now I don't bake, I use all of these silicone cake trays for resin, and I do have a smaller one than this and I have a larger one than this, but I didn't want the small one. I didn't want it to be just that tight around the actual indentation of the trinket dish, so that is my reasoning for using the next size up, already knowing this is going to take a lot of Jesmonite. But here it is. I've just made sure that everything is clean. I'm also going to use these ring cones. These are from Let's Resin. If you saw the unboxing, you'd have seen those. Now I'm using two pigments, yellow oxide and Code. I'm very aware Code has now been discontinued, sadly, which is tragedy because it was my absolute favourite colour. This was actually sent to me by one of my patrons who was, getting rid of some things, and sadly the majority of the ink has settled at the bottom of the bottles. One thing that frustrates me with these pigments is that they settle, and try as I might, I cannot revive them. I've actually split a bottle open before to try and bring it back to life, but it's just not possible. So it took a lot of pigment to get the colours that I wanted, because all we have left is the liquid part. The actual pigment itself that does all the work kind of settled to the bottom. Anyway, sorry, I went off on one there about the colours, but these colours are giving me proper sandy, beachy vibes, and I love them. I knew immediately I did not make enough. I did not make enough. I poured everything I had into that cake tin, and I want to say it was about 150 liquid. So 150 liquid times 2.5 for your powder. That was a lot of Jesmonite, guys, and it didn't even cover the inlay because the inlay is that big. It's like an inch deep. I cannot express how big it is. But this is 30 minutes later. I'm already in love with the marble. Absolutely in love with the marble design. And this has to be the biggest trinket dish, the biggest, most heaviest trinket dish in the world. Like, it's insane how heavy this is, and I can see this sitting quite happily in like a huge marble bathroom or somewhere like that. It's ridiculous. It is actually ridiculously heavy, but I love it. It's luxe. It feels luxurious to me. The cones. Now I have to say this about the Let's Resin ring cones. I fully did not expect the Jesmonite to pop out as easily as it did. Like, I don't know what I expected. Obviously with resin you use sometimes alcohol to pop out your resin pieces, but with Jesmonite they slid straight out of the silicone molds. So I was really happy to see that. I was worried they'd snap, I was worried they'd break, but this I am loving. I'm loving the texture, the depth, the size. It's the size is ridiculous, but I think this is going to make an absolutely beautiful trinket tray for necklaces, you know, bracelets, alongside those ring cones for the rings. It's just all going to work together and be beautiful. Now I have been using these sealers ever since I did a video on them. I love them. I've been using these sealers by Elechem, so go check them out as well. I don't have a link for them or anything like that, but I do recommend them. I think they're great. I really like them. This one here I think was the eggshell, and I actually apply the sealer using a big fluffy makeup brush because you get no streaks. It's the best method. And I did give the trinket tray and the ring cones 2 coats of this sealer to do the job. I know sealers are just like hot topic right now in the Jesmonite community because it's really hard to come by sealers that everyone likes, you know. And of course Jesmonite have also discontinued their acrylic sealer, so yeah, I fully recommend these though. I do fully recommend these. I really like them. And that is all. It was a really hot sunny day this day, so forgive the fact that the picture is a little bit off and skew-iffy and very bright and lots of shadows. But that is it. 2 coats done and I'm in love. Now I finished both ring cones and the trinket dish off with a beautiful self-adhesive cork base just to make them super neat. And I did end up sanding the tops of the cones because I missed a trick. I should have got down there in there with a cocktail stick to dislodge the air, but I didn't, so they came out with the air pockets right at the tips of those cones. But you know what? Rounded off, they look just as gorgeous. I absolutely love them. I love them as a set. They work so well together. The giant silicone inlay has worked a dream to create the most perfectly sized dish in this tray. Like, I don't even feel like I can call it a tray at this point. It's massive. It just weighs a ton. So calling it a trinket dish makes it sound delicate and nice, but this would kick your butt. This is huge. But yeah, I really enjoyed making this silicone inlay. Let me know if you found this helpful. I'm kicking myself that I did not actually do this with my other flat shells. Now, the majority of the silicone inlays you saw me make were not necessarily the flat open shells like this. They were the more rounded up, curled up in a ball type shells where you really did have to press them into polymer clay, but some of them weren't. Some of them were flat and I still pressed them. Nobody told me not to. Not that I'm blaming you guys, but anyway, something to think about if you are making your silicone inlays. If your shell is flat like these ones, then you can just pour it directly into the shell without all that hassle. But yeah, I really appreciate you all if you've been here this long. I hope you've really enjoyed this and found it helpful if nothing else. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.